Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today we are talking about the movie Top Gun Maverick. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. Top Gun Maverick is a sequel to the 1986 movie Top Gun. Well, it's not quite 36 years later. The movie was actually filmed in 2019. It was supposed to come out in 2019, then got pushed to 2020. Basically, the movie is about Maverick coming back to the Top Gun flight school 30 some odd years later to become a flight instructor and to teach the new recruits how to fly an old school mission. There we go. So as far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I liked the cast a lot. Of course, Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly are always good. Ed Harris was in here as well in a brief part, always good. I really liked Monica Barbaro as Phoenix, Glen Powell as Hangman, Lewis Pullman as Bob, and Jon Hamm and Charles Parnell as well. The opening sequence in the movie was great. It's basically the same as the opening sequence of the original Top Gun from what I remember. Shows the planes, got, Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins playing. It's a great song. Honestly, it's easy to make fun of Kenny Loggins or that kind of music, but it still slaps. I mean, 36 years later, I still love that song. It's still stuck in my head. I watched it yesterday. Yeah, the guy was the king of 80s soundtracks. The new cast overall, I really liked them. I think they did a good job. It's always hard to kind of introduce new characters like that. But in this one, they did a pretty good job of it. I didn't find them too annoying or, kind of jammed in there by any means. So overall, pretty much liked it. I liked most of the music, like when they reused stuff like Danger Zone or the older songs they used, like they used Slow Ride at some point in the bar. And they do have Goose's kid, Rooster, play Great Balls of Fire in the bar as well. So anytime they had that kind of stuff was great. And the score, again, was great. They had Harold Faltermeyer in there and Hans Zimmer, who it sounded like did sort of a reworked version of the original score. And the flying scenes in this movie are great. They're all real from what I understand. Tom Cruise basically insisted that to be in the movie, they had to use actual, shots from the cockpit and refused to do any kind of CGI or anything like that. So all of the actors went up, and obviously aren't flying the planes themselves, but they all went up and experienced the actual G's and sort of all that kind of stuff. And all of the flights in here, as far as I know, are completely real. It's no CGI, it's no stock footage or any of that kind of stuff. And it looks great. Honestly, this is the kind of movie that you want to see in the theater on the biggest screen possible. I saw it in a regular theater and a regular screen, but it would be worth seeing in IMAX or D-Box or any kind of the best way you can see it, basically. This is the kind of movie that you need to see. I mean, it's better. It's going to be a better experience in theaters. It was made to see in the theaters. It's that traditional kind of popcorn summer box office kind of movie thing. As far as what I disliked about it, they do have some flashbacks from the original movie that I feel like I didn't really need so much. All of the new music I thought was terrible. They do a sort of the football scene, which is their version of the beach volleyball scene from the original. The music in that scene I did not like at all. I don't know what it was, but it sure wasn't Let's Hear It for the Boys or whatever that stupid song was. That's not what it was. What was it? I don't remember. Doing It for the Boys? I think that's what it was. And there's a Lady Gaga song at the end that is just terrible. I mean, I know she's popular and people like her, and I mean, whatever, Poker Face is fine. It's a jam. I'm not going to hate on that, but yeah, I do not like her voice in that song. It's just very warbly and annoying and hard to hear. It's no Take My Breath Away, which again is not a great song, honestly, and neither is Doing It for the Boys or whatever that song is. But I don't know. At least it wasn't as treacly and terrible. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind on it. But yeah, did not like that song at all. The character of Phoenix, played by Monica Barbaro, I liked her a lot. I think she was really well cast as sort of this, tough kind of woman and stuff. But I don't think they did much with her character. She, she does have a little bit of a thing where she does kind of get into a crash at some point, and they do kind of an interesting scene where you think they're going to do a recreation of the scene where Goose died and his son Rooster, played by oh God, what's his name? Miles Teller is in this, and you sort of think they're going to do sort of a new version of that, and they don't quite. They do it a little bit differently. But basically, her character doesn't really do much. She's mostly there to just say stuff like, well, now you know about Rooster, or that's Maverick, and I don't know. It was just kind of stupid. Like, a big part of a movie is exposition and sort of explaining stuff, but I feel like they were pointing out the exposition. Like, you didn't need to have somebody look in the camera and say, hey, guys, this is this character. Like, the moment should have been able to speak on its own. So I don't know. The Bob character. Again, I liked the character. I thought he was interesting. The guy who played him was Louis Pullman, who played Major in Catch-22, that TV show that I really liked. But they didn't do much with him. You know, I sort of expected him to have a little bit more, somewhat of a character arc or something to happen, or at least to come up with a cool meaning for the name Bob, or to give him a better name. That didn't really happen. And then the other characters, so there's basically 12 recruits who come in here, and you know, you basically only really hear from 6 of them. The other 6, there's a very brief scene in the bar in the beginning, but other than that, a lot of them don't even talk. Like there's a character named Halo, played by Kara Wang, who, if she has a line, it's only one, and I missed it. And then Manny Jacinto from The Good Place is in here as a character named Fritz. I don't even remember him at all. Again, he may have been in that bar scene in the beginning, but basically, when there's these 12 recruits, only 6 of them really have any lines. So you know the 6 who are going to get chosen at the end. And maybe it's, again, spoilers here, it's maybe a little bit of a surprise that he doesn't pick Hangman, he picks, you know, Goose instead, but it's really not a surprise at all. Of course, that's what he's going to do. That the movie wouldn't work. There would be no movie otherwise. I thought the story dialogue was very kind of paint by numbers, and it just seemed like they were kind of checking boxes in a lot of ways. You know, they're like, okay, yeah, let's get a nice diverse cast in here. We'll get some women, and we'll get some, you know, women of color if we can, even, and some people of color, but we're not going to give them any significant roles at all. We're still going to focus on like the white dudes. I don't know. It's, again, and there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense here. You know, a lot of anyone who's been in the military knows that's not really how it works. I know they have a military consultant who says that, you know, but like, no, it's a lot of times for drama, you have to do this kind of thing, like this insubordination, like, oh, he doesn't follow the rules. And it's like, that's not how it works in the military. If you did that, you would just immediately, you know, probably get kicked out, or at least, you know, demoted and stuff. I don't know, they kind of talk about that, but whatever. The love interest in this movie, I really didn't need it. There was no real need for it. Jennifer Connelly is fine. I have nothing against her. Apparently she was mentioned in the original movie, but she was supposed to be like a 16-year-old girl. So that's weird. I assume, though, he had a relationship with her later at some point. And the movie sort of seems like they've had an on and off relationship for years. In a lot of ways, this movie seems like the third movie of a trilogy where we didn't see the second one. There was some second movie that came in where he started dating Jennifer Connelly, and he interacted with Iceman a little bit more, and they established their friendship. And that movie just never got made. And now we've got this one. Is almost what it feels like. It's very weird. I sort of understand why they didn't get Kelly Lynch back. It sounds like she's not really acting so much anyway. But I'm sort of surprised they didn't get Meg Ryan back. Again, maybe she's not really acting either, but I don't know. They could have had her in here. They're just like, no, his mom's dead too. So his mom and his dad are both dead. Oh well. Like I said, the insubordination stuff doesn't make any sense. There's a scene at the beginning, basically, where, you know, he's supposed to fly this plane to Mach 9 and then later to Mach 10, but Ed Harris pulls the funding, you know, because he wants drones, and Tom Cruise is the old school pilot who doesn't want drones. So he then decides to take the plane up and take it to 10 Gs, you know, instead of the 9 Gs they were supposed to do. And he does it, and it's fine. They're like, oh, good job. And then he's got to push it a little too far, which, you know, would have been nice if he would have just hit the 10 Gs, came back, and everything would have been fine. But we wouldn't have a movie otherwise. So he pushes it up to 10.4 Gs or something like that, ends up crashing the plane, you know, which cost millions, if not, you know, I don't even know, billions. I don't know how much planes cost, but hundreds of millions of dollars probably for this plane. So understandably, the Navy is upset at him. And so he, you know, again, any other situation would be kicked out of the military immediately, as far as I understand, as far as I know. But instead, he gets transferred back to the Top Gun school because of Iceman, which, again, why Iceman holds so much sway, I'm not sure, because apparently he's still an admiral, even though he has cancer and he dies at some point in the movie. So, like, I guess, or he still has sway even though he's not an active officer, which, again, doesn't really track for me, but okay, fine. So the issue that I have, though, is, so at the beginning they have this, okay, he's a maverick. He plays by his own rules, you know, he pushes the envelope. And so you would think then his character arc would be he learns that he should not do that. But that's not what happens in this movie. In this movie, he basically saves the day by doing that exact same thing that he did before. So then the moral or the lesson is, like, don't listen to what people tell you, because as long as you're good enough, then you can do it. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something here. And it does seem to be there was some character development because he gets together with Jennifer Connelly. So he finally learned to stop running. And, you know, I don't know, maybe he's going to be a flight instructor now permanently. But again, it seemed like there could have been a way to make it so that he like learns his lesson, gets humbled, and sort of the kids teach him something. I don't know. Maybe that would have been more predictable, but that was sort of an issue I had with it. So the movie's directed by Joseph Kosinski, who before this did Tron Legacy and Oblivion. He did a movie called Only the Brave, which I totally missed that movie, but Jennifer Connelly was also in that. I think maybe Miles Teller was too. I could be wrong. And he's got a movie coming up with Miles Teller called Spiderhead, and Chris Hemsworth is in that too. The original, of course, was directed by Tony Scott, who died 10 years ago, something like that. It was written by a lot of people. The screenplay was by Ehren Kruger, who did The Ring and Dumbo, the Dumbo remake for Disney, the live action, and Eric Warren Singer, who did American Hustle and Only the Brave, and then Christopher McQuarrie, who did Usual Suspects, Jack Reacher, Edge of Tomorrow, The Mummy, and then all the last 3 or 4 Mission Impossible movies, or the next 2 coming up. So him and Tom Cruise have been working together a lot lately. They apparently get along pretty well. And then the story is listed by Peter Craig, who did The Batman in the Town, and Justin Marks, who did The Jungle Book. And then there's also 2 more credits for the people who wrote the original Top Gun. So a lot of writers on this one, and it kind of shows. I do feel like I need to talk a little bit about Tom Cruise because he is an absolute psychopath in real life. He belongs to a crazy, ridiculous religious cult. And I feel like at some point I was upset with him for that. And I was like, I'm not watching any more Tom Cruise movies. And then, I don't know, Tropic Thunder, I think, came out. And I was like, you know what? Okay, this guy's entertaining. So I will say he is believable in this character. He's believable as this ridiculous, crazy guy who, doesn't listen to what people tell him and thinks he can do anything. It's unfortunate, that he belongs to a crazy religious cult, but what are you going to do? Val Kilmer's in this, and then I thought the way they handled his character was interesting because obviously he can't really talk much anymore. He does have a couple lines in this, but they mostly have him deal with either texting or even in person he types stuff on the screen because they basically wrote his real life cancer into the storyline itself. Again, Val Kilmer, great actor. I watched that documentary, I loved it, and then I found out later that he's a Christian Scientist, and he didn't want to get treatment for that cancer, and so that's why it progressed to the state it is. I don't know how true that is. Honestly, I'm not an expert, and I'm not a cancer oncologist or whatever, but yeah, that again affects my judgment of him a little bit. Like, hey, dummy, listen to science, not some ridiculous invisible friend of yours, idiot. I don't know. That's how Jim Henson died. Now we got weird sounding Muppets. That's a Family Guy joke. So yeah, other than that, the cast got to choose their call signs, which I thought was pretty interesting. So obviously, Miles Teller chose Rooster because it's like Goose, and that makes sense. I think Monica Barbaro chose Phoenix because her character kind of crashes and then rises up from the ashes, so that makes sense. Like I said, it was supposed to be released in 2019, got pushed back a couple times, so some of the lineup doesn't make sense. Like Miles Teller isn't quite old enough to be playing Goose's son, because Goose's son would be like 39 now, 38, 39. Miles Teller's actually 35, though. He's older than I realized. And this movie is supposed to, or was shot, 3 years ago. So it's not that far off. I don't know, whatever. It's a movie. The country that they're attacking or that this mission is in is never really mentioned. They just say it's sort of a rogue nation, I think. But Iran is the only other country with F-14. So best guess would be that Iran is the country that they are. There are, of course, markings on the planes that I didn't recognize. I assume they were made up for the movie. The enemies, other than they don't really use the F-14s, but the enemies, they use a Sukhoi Su-57, Su-57. I don't know. I just Googled this stuff. But that's a Russian plane. So I don't know. And then the good guys in this one, the Top Gun guys, use F-18s. And they sort of explain in the story why they have to use the older sort of Tomcat planes. So yeah, overall, I really liked the movie. I think it could be the kind of thing that if I watched it again, some of the cracks would show a little bit more and I would like it less. But as far as a theater going experience, it's a solid, like traditional kind of summer blockbuster. And it was really fun and really enjoyable. So I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I definitely had some issues with it. It wasn't perfect, but it's just great to see kind of this style of movie in the theater again. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.